Okay, so like imagine AI analyzing, your medical images and like spotting things even the best doctors might miss.
Mhm.
That's a pretty powerful idea, right? But there's kind of a catch. How can doctors like really trust that AI diagnosis if they don't know how the AI actually like came to that conclusion?
Right.
And that's what researchers are working on with explainable AI or XAI.
Yeah.
And that brings us to what we're going to deep dive into today.
Okay.
This new technique called SegX, which basically tries to like bridge that trust gap
Yeah.
by using clinical knowledge to help the AI explain itself better.
Exactly. And the problem with like a lot of the current XAI methods
Mhm.
is they often highlight stuff in the image that, well, clinically, it's just not that relevant.
Oh, okay.
So imagine like an AI is looking at a skin lesion, right?
Right.
But instead of focusing on the lesion itself, it's highlighting like the background or something.
Ah, okay. So it's like the AI was kind of speaking a different language.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then how does the SegX like change that? How does it change the conversation?
Well, SegX, which is short for segmentation-based explanation, it uses what we call a segmentation model,
Okay.
which you can kind of think of as like a digital map.
Okay.
It highlights those clinically important areas in an image.
Okay.
And then so by taking that map and putting it on top of the XAI output, we can filter out all the noise and just focus on what matters from, the medical perspective.
So it's almost like we're giving the AI like a crash course in anatomy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So does that mean like every time you use it on a different type of medical image, do you have to retrain it?
Well, that's, I think, one of the coolest things about SegX is how adaptable it is.
Okay.
It's what we call a plug-and-play solution. So you can basically use it with like any existing XAI method.
Okay.
So that means it has, the potential to really improve AI interpretability across a whole bunch of applications in healthcare.
That's really promising.
Yeah.
But like does it really work in the real world? I know there was that research paper we wanted to talk about that, that
Yeah.
kind of put SegX to the test.
Definitely, yeah.
So what happened there?
Well, they looked at SegX using two data sets,
Okay.
one for skin lesions and then another one for chest x-rays.
Gotcha.
And what they found was SegX consistently improved how accurate those XAI explanations were. And it really brought them more in line with what doctors would actually find important.
Can you give us like an example from the research? How did this actually play out?
Sure. So in those skin lesion pictures,
Yeah.
the original XAI, it would often be highlighting like the healthy skin around the lesion,
Right.
But then SegX, it was able to just focus on a lesion itself.
Uh,
So it gave like a much more clinically relevant explanation.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about the chest x-rays? Did SegX kind of do the same thing there?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
In those cases, SegX really helped the AI pick out the right spots, like the specific areas
Right.
that were connected to certain conditions,
Okay.
like atelectasis or pleural effusion.
Gotcha.
So that made the explanations way more helpful for the radiologists.
So it sounds like SegX is like making really big strides in improving how reliable XAI is.
Yeah.
But like accurate explanations, that's only one part of it, right?
Right.
We also need to know like how confident is the AI?
Exactly, yeah.
How confident is it in its predictions?
You're absolutely right, and that's where this thing called SEGO comes in.
Okay.
It stands for Segmentation-Based Uncertainty Assessment.
Okay.
And basically it looks at how well that AI's explanation map,
Uh-huh.
how well it lines up with those clinically relevant areas.
So it's like measuring its confidence level.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it adds another layer of trust.
Right. Saying like, hey, here are some potential areas where, maybe we shouldn't be so sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like a built-in check,
Yeah.
so we don't just blindly believe everything the AI says.
Exactly. And the research actually showed that SegX was really good at, telling the difference between the right and wrong predictions.
Wow.
So that just makes, AI-driven diagnosis even more trustworthy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like this SegX and SegU, they could like really change how we use AI in healthcare.
Yeah.
But for like our listener who maybe isn't a doctor or a scientist,
Right.
what's the big takeaway here? Like why should they care about this research?
Well, I think this research really gives us a glimpse into a future where,
Yeah.
AI in healthcare isn't just some tool.
Right.
It's like a real partner.
Okay.
So imagine AI helping doctors catch diseases earlier or personalizing treatment plans, maybe even predicting, potential health risks.
Wow.
But to get there, to that future,
Yeah. We need to trust these systems, and that's exactly what SegX and SegU are trying to do.
so instead of just like giving a diagnosis,
Right.
the AI could actually like explain why it thinks that
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
a way that, doctors and patients can actually understand.
Yeah, it's not just about being accurate. It's about being understandable, accountable,
Right.
So by closing that gap between what the AI knows and what we understand,
Uh-huh.
that's how we unlock the real power of AI in medicine.
It's almost like having a conversation with the AI instead of just getting like a cryptic message,
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And this research,
Yeah.
while it looked at skin and chest x-rays,
Right.
it has, implications way on those specific areas.
Okay.
This approach, I mean, you could apply it to like all kinds of medical imaging,
Oh,
like
wow.
mammograms, MRIs, you name it.
So this could potentially like help us find all sorts of conditions earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
It is, imagine AI looking at a mammogram
Mm-hmm.
and not only finding, maybe a potential sign of breast cancer,
Right.
but then actually explaining to the radiologist, like, this
Uh-huh.
is why I flagged this area. I mean, that level of transparency could be huge.
Yeah, for sure.
But of course,
Yeah.
even with these advances, there are still some challenges, right?
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, like,
Yeah.
there's got to be some limitations to this research.
Right, of course. One thing is like how accurate that segmentation model is.
Okay.
If it's not good at picking out those clinically relevant areas,
Yeah.
then SegX isn't going to work as well.
Right. So it's all about having like a really solid foundation to build on.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another thing to keep in mind is, they use this metric called IOD to measure how well the AI's explanation matched up with like the clinical truth.
Okay.
But, that might not capture everything about what makes a good explanation.
Oh, okay.
There might be other factors that we need to look at.
It's kind of like like trying to measure how funny a joke is just by how much people laugh.
Right.
Like you might miss some of the subtle humor there.
Exactly. And it just highlights that we need to keep researching and developing these XAI techniques.
Yeah.
We can't stop. We have to keep refining how we evaluate and interpret these explanations for AI.
Okay, so despite those limitations, it sounds like this research is still a big step forward for making AI a more trustworthy tool in medicine.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely is. And it brings us closer to a future where people don't see AI with like suspicion, but as a partner in improving healthcare for everybody.
Now, this research, it's focused on medicine, but this idea of trustworthy AI, that goes way beyond just healthcare, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Think about like self-driving cars.
Okay.
What if those cars could not only drive safely,
Yeah.
but also explain to you, the passenger, like why they're making certain decisions?
Well, that would definitely make me feel a lot better, as a passenger.
Right. Or think about AI being used in like financial systems.
Okay.
What if it could give you a clear explanation for why a loan was approved or
Yeah.
why it recommended a certain investment?
Right, to make things more transparent.
Exactly, yeah.
So those are some really great examples.
Yeah.
But like beyond those specific applications, I think
Right.
the bigger question here is like,
Yeah.
how do we make sure that all AI, as it keeps, getting more advanced, how do we make sure it becomes more trustworthy?
That's the big question. And it's one that, researchers and developers are wrestling with all the time.
Yeah.
It's not just about making AI smarter.
Right.
It's about making it more understandable and making sure that, it aligns with what we value as humans.
It's like we're almost at this like new era.
Yeah.
Where AI isn't just a tool, it's more like a collaborator.
Yeah.
But like any collaboration, it needs that trust, right?
Of course.
And that mutual understanding.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. As AI becomes more and more part of our lives,
Right.
that need for trust and explainability, it's only going to get bigger.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive here, I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about.
Okay, go ahead.
So, this research, it shows us how we can make AI more trustworthy in healthcare.
Right.
But what about all those other areas where we're using AI? What can we do to make sure that AI, no matter what form it takes, that it earns our trust?
That's a fantastic question, and it's one I hope everyone listening will really consider.
Yeah.
Because the future of AI, it's not set in stone. We're shaping it right now.
Right.
With the choices we make, the questions we ask, and the values that we prioritize.
Yeah.
So let's approach this technology thoughtfully, critically.
Yeah.
And with this shared commitment to building a future where AI really does serve humanity.
Yeah. It really feels like we're at like a crossroads right now with AI.
I agree. Totally.
Like the tech, it's just advancing so fast.
Okay.
But that whole question of trust,
Yeah.
that's still hanging over everything.
It is. It's not enough to just like build these powerful AI systems, right?
Right.
We have to make sure that they actually, line up with our values as humans, that they're transparent.
Right.
And that ultimately, they're actually benefiting society.
And that kind of brings us back to, what we've been deep diving into today.
Yeah.
This whole quest for trustworthy AI. We've been talking about SegX and SegU.
Yeah.
They seem like really promising solutions
Yeah.
for making those medical diagnoses easier to understand. But like we've been saying, this need for trustworthy AI, it goes way beyond just healthcare.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you think about self-driving cars, financial algorithms, even stuff in the legal field, the potential impact of AI, it's just massive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And in all of those areas, trust is like the most important thing.
It really is.
I mean, think about it. Would you really feel comfortable getting into a self-driving car
Right.
if you had no idea how it was making decisions?
No way.
Or trusting like your whole financial future to
Yeah.
some AI system that's just a total black box.
Exactly. And it's not even just about feeling comfortable.
Right.
It's about, making sure things are fair, that there's accountability,
Yeah.
and that ultimately, people are safe, and that society as a whole benefits.
So where do we go from here? Like, how do we actually build that future where AI isn't something that we're like afraid of,
Yeah.
but something that we can trust and actually work with?
I think a big part of it is just continuing to do research, to keep developing these systems,
Okay.
but not just focusing on, what AI can do,
Yeah.
but also how it explains itself, what the ethical implications are, and how it, lines up with our values.
It's almost like we're building this like foundation
Yeah.
for this whole new way that humans and machines can work together.
Exactly. A partnership where, AI can do what it's good at.
Yeah, like processing all that data.
Right. Finding those patterns, making those complex calculations.
But then we balance that with, human judgment, empathy, those ethical considerations.
It's a future that's going to take, a lot of careful thought,
Yeah.
a lot of open discussions, and a willingness to, really face these challenges head on.
And it's a future that I think, has so much potential for good.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine a world where AI is helping us solve some of our biggest problems. Climate change, diseases, poverty.
That's a vision worth working towards, definitely.
But and as we wrap up this deep dive today, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought.
Okay.
The future of AI, it's not set in stone, right? It's something that we're all creating right now.
Hmm.
Through the choices we make, the questions we ask, and the values that we choose to prioritize.
Absolutely.
So let's make sure that we're approaching this technology thoughtfully, critically, and with this shared commitment to building that future where AI truly benefits all of humanity.
Well said. And it's a conversation that needs to involve everyone,
Yeah.
not just scientists and engineers.
That's it for our deep dive today into the world of trustworthy AI.
Hmm.
We hope this episode has, made you curious, made you think about the role that AI is playing in our lives. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.